I'm about to say something that could completely destroy my credibility on this channel, and I am saying it anyway. I have been covering football for years. I have made predictions that aged beautifully and predictions that aged like warm milk. I have been right when nobody believed me and wrong when I was absolutely certain. But in all that time, I have never once made a prediction that made me genuinely uncomfortable the night before I recorded it. Until now. Because this one kept me up. This one had me staring at the ceiling at 2 a.m, running the numbers again and again, hoping I would find something that would let me take the easy road. The safe road. The road where I just say Argentina win comfortably, move on, and nobody questions me. But I cannot do it. Because the data does not let me, and more importantly, my eyes do not let me. So here we are, Argentina versus Algeria, and I am going to tell you something about this match that every single mainstream analyst, every major football channel, every verified pundit with a blue tick is either too scared, too lazy, or too compromised to say out loud. And if you are not watching until the very end of this video, you are going to miss the one number, the one single statistic that changes everything you think you know about this fixture. Because once you hear it, you cannot unhear it. I promise you that. Algeria. I know. I know what you are thinking right now. You are thinking this man has lost his mind. You are reaching for that back button. You are already typing in the comments before I have even made my argument. But let me ask you something before you go anywhere. Do you remember where you were when Saudi Arabia beat Argentina? Do you remember that moment? Because I do. I remember exactly where I was sitting. I remember the silence in the room. I remember the look on people's faces as the scoreboard confirmed what none of us could process. The world champions, beaten by a team that nobody gave a single chance to. Beaten by a team whose odds were so ridiculous that some bookmakers had to double-check their systems were working correctly. And you know what every single analyst said the day before that match? They said exactly what they are saying right now about Algeria. They said it was a formality. They said Argentina would stroll through. They said the only interesting question was how many goals it would finish by. They ran their little graphics and their little stat breakdowns, and they sent everyone home comfortable and certain and completely blindsided. And football waited, and football smiled, and football did what it always does to people who get comfortable. It humiliated them. Now, I am not here to tell you Algeria is Saudi Arabia. That would be lazy, and you deserve better than that. What I am here to tell you is that the conditions that created that Saudi Arabia result, the exact same conditions, are present in this fixture right now. And I am going to prove it to you piece by piece until there is not a single doubt left in your mind. But first, that number I promised you. In their last 14 competitive matches, Algeria have kept a clean sheet or conceded only 1 goal in 11 of them. 11 out of 14, against proper opposition, against teams with genuine quality, genuine pace, genuine attacking threat. And in those same 14 matches, Algeria created an average of 2.3 expected goals per game. 2.3. That is not a small nation hoping for a lucky deflection and a goalkeeping masterclass. That is a team that genuinely creates. That is a team that manufactures real chances against real defenses and converts them at a rate that would make half of Europe's top 10 sides uncomfortable. Nobody is talking about this. Nobody in the mainstream is running this data because it does not fit the narrative. Because the narrative is already written and it says Argentina cruise and everyone goes home happy and the football world stays exactly as comfortable and predictable as the people running it want it to be. And that is exactly where Algeria are going to ambush them. Here is what Argentina are walking into, and I genuinely believe Scaloni's staff either do not know this or do not respect it enough to change their preparation. Algeria press like their lives depend on it. Not in that pretty, controlled, positional pressing way that looks beautiful on a tactics board. They press with chaos, with aggression, with the kind of relentless physicality that European sides simply do not encounter enough in preparation to be ready for it when it actually hits them at full intensity. They get in your face from the first whistle. They make the first 5 minutes feel like the 93rd minute of a relegation battle. They set a physical and psychological tempo that says to the opposition, we are not here to participate, we are here to compete, and if you came here thinking otherwise, then you have already made the biggest mistake of this match. And here is the brutal truth about Argentina that nobody in the mainstream media has the courage to say. Argentina are vulnerable to exactly that. Not because they are a bad team. They are an incredible team. Messi is the greatest player who has ever lived, and I will argue that until my last breath. But Argentina under Scaloni have a specific and well-documented weakness that emerges when they face sides that disrupt their rhythm in the opening 20 minutes before the midfield can establish control. When De Paul is pressed out of time and space, Argentina's entire build-up stutters. When Messi cannot receive in his pockets because the press is collapsing those spaces before the ball even arrives, Argentina go long and direct, and suddenly they look like a very different team to the one that won the World Cup. They look reactive. They look uncomfortable. They look, for stretches of a match, genuinely beatable. Saudi Arabia figured this out in 45 minutes. Algeria have had months to study it. Now let me tell you about the human element, because tactics and statistics only tell half the story, and the other half is the part that makes football the greatest sport on earth. Algeria's squad is built from players who exist in a specific and incredibly powerful emotional space that I call the nothing to lose and everything to prove zone. These are not players who grew up being told they were going to be stars. These are not players whose path was smooth and well-funded and celebrated at every stage. These are players who fought for every single opportunity, who were overlooked and underestimated and told in 100 different ways by 100 different people that they were not quite good enough for the biggest stages. And now they are on the biggest stage, against the world champions, in a match that the entire football world has already decided before a ball is kicked. You want to talk about motivation? You want to talk about the kind of fuel that makes a footballer run through a wall? That is it right there. That is the most powerful force in sport. And it is wearing the green and white of Algeria, and it is going to be on that pitch from the first minute, and it is going to be absolutely electric. Argentina, by contrast, walk into this match carrying the weight of expectation, the weight of being the favorites, the weight of a world that will judge them not on whether they win, but on how convincingly they win. That is a completely different psychological burden, and history shows us repeatedly that it affects even the greatest teams in the world. The favorite has something to lose. The underdog has everything to gain. And that asymmetry in motivation, that gap in hunger and desperation and raw desire, has decided more football matches than any tactical system ever invented. Now here is where I separate this analysis from every other video you will find on this fixture. The specific moment that I believe decides this match comes in a 15-minute window between the 55th and 70th minute of the game. I have watched Algeria's last 8 matches in detail, and there is a pattern that repeats itself with remarkable consistency. They absorb pressure in the opening 30 minutes, they grow into the game as the opponent tires slightly from pressing against their defensive shape, and then between 55 and 70 minutes they produce their most dangerous spell of sustained attacking play. That is the window. That is when Algeria are at their most lethal, and that is the exact same window where Argentina historically, if they have not already put the game to bed, becomes slightly disorganized as substitutions disrupt their shape, and the legs of the veterans begin to feel the minutes. If Algeria are within touching distance at the 55th minute, this match becomes genuinely unpredictable. Not slightly unpredictable, not academically unpredictable, genuinely, viscerally, what is happening unpredictable, and I believe they will be. Here is why Argentina still win. Because Messi is Messi. Because when the pressure is highest and the situation demands a moment of individual genius, there is nobody on this planet who delivers it more consistently or more beautifully. Because Scaloni is an elite manager who will make the right adjustments at halftime, and his players have the mental resilience of a team that has already faced and conquered every possible adversity. Because ultimately the quality gap is real, even if it is smaller than the world wants to admit. But here is the prediction. The one that kept me up. The one that no mainstream channel is making. Argentina 2, Algeria 1. A match that goes to the 78th minute before Argentina finally, definitively, put it beyond doubt. A match where Algeria score and the entire football world collectively loses its mind for 20 minutes. A match where Messi produces one moment of absolute transcendent brilliance that reminds you he is not from the same planet as the rest of us. A match that ends with Argentina winning and Algeria walking off that pitch with their heads higher than they have ever been because they just proved to the entire world that they belong in this conversation. And a match that every single pundit who called this a formality will quietly never mention again. That is my prediction. That is what my eyes tell me, and what the data tells me, and what 2 a.m, and a ceiling and 4 hours of Algeria footage tells me. Argentina 2, Algeria 1. And if I am wrong, I will come back here and I will say so. Clearly. No excuses, no reframing, no pretending I said something different. But if I am right, I want you to remember that you were here. I want you to remember that this channel made this call when nobody else would. I want you to remember that football always rewards the people who actually do the work instead of just going with the comfortable story. Tell me in the comments what you think. Tell me your scoreline. Tell me why Algeria actually wins this outright. Tell me why Argentina put 4 past them before halftime. Tell me I have completely lost the plot. I genuinely want to hear it because the argument is the point and the debate is the beauty, and that is why every single one of us fell in love with this sport in the first place. If this video changed how you are thinking about this match, like it. If this channel is new to you, subscribe. Because this is what we do here every single time. We do not take the easy road. We do not say what is safe. We say what is true even when it is uncomfortable and even when it costs us, and even when it keeps us up until 2 in the morning staring at a ceiling and running numbers that most people would rather not see. Argentina versus Algeria is coming, and the football world is nowhere near ready for it.